In this edition of the Parliament Report, commissioners say no one is guilty of misconduct in Manatt affair. Opposition up in arms over the findings of Manatt report. And Manatt commissioners rebuke some attorneys who appeared before them. Politicians and public servants have been cleared of any form of misconduct in the handling of the extradition request for Christopher Dudas Coke. The three-member Manatt Commission of Inquiry said while they found no one guilty of misconduct, there were mistakes and errors of judgment. The findings of the Emil George-led Commission of Inquiry were tabled in the House of Representatives on June 14. The other two commissioners were Anthony Irons and Donald Scharschmidt. Prime Minister Bruce Golding, who admitted that as JLP leader he sanctioned the hiring of U.S. law firm Manatt Phelps & Phillips to lobby the U.S. government on the extradition matter, acted inappropriately, according to the findings of the commissioners. The commissioners also argued that the Jamaica Labour Party, which Golding leads, should not have been involved in the extradition matter, noting that there might have been inappropriate commingling between the state and the JLP. The commission was established to inquire into the issues relating to the request by the United States government for the extradition of Mr. Christopher Coke, the manner in which the request was dealt with, and the engagement by Harold Brady and Company of the U.S. firm Manatt Phelps & Phillips. The commissioners also found that Coke's constitutional rights were breached. They concluded that although the Interception of Communications Act authorizes interference with telecommunications, the interference with Coke's telecommunication was not in accordance with that act. Commenting on the role of Justice Minister Dorothy Lightburn, the commissioners confirmed that she had the discretion to sign the authority to proceed and might have signed it immediately upon receipt of request if she was satisfied there was evidence to support the allegations against Coke. The commissioners said that notwithstanding the arguments presented by Lightburn for delaying the signing of the request, she should have left this matter to a magistrate. Coke is accused by the U.S. government of drug and gun running and is now awaiting trial in the U.S. Little more than an hour after the tabling of the Emil George-chaired Manatt Commission of Inquiry report in Parliament, a seemingly agitated opposition leader, Portia Simpson Miller, suggested that the contents of the 58-page document could be interpreted as a travesty, whitewash and cover-up. Making the declaration during the Prime Minister's question time in Gordon House, the seat of Jamaica's Parliament, Simpson Miller argued strongly that Parliament should debate the Manatt report. Responding to Simpson Miller's claim that the report was a cover-up, Prime Minister Bruce Golding noted that one of the three commissioners was an advisor to the opposition leader. Declaring that he was not running to the defense of the commissioners, Golding told his colleague lawmakers that the three were persons of impeccable integrity. Hitting back at Simpson Miller, the Prime Minister said, "For the suggestion to be made that the report contains a whitewash would be indicting, for example, in that whitewash, the person who up to the time I took office was Special Advisor to the Most Honorable Portia Simpson Miller. Anthony Irons, an industrial relations specialist, was an advisor to Simpson Miller." Commenting on the request by Simpson Miller for Parliament to debate the Manatt report, the Prime Minister said there would be various opportunities for the House to discuss the findings. He said the report could be submitted to a committee for detailed examination and it could be the subject of a motion introduced by an opposition MP. Lead attorney for the opposition People's National Party at the Manatt Commission of Inquiry, K.D. Knight, vented his disgust at the findings of the Emil George-led report into the handling of the extradition request for Christopher Coke on June 14. Fielding questions from journalists at the entrance to Gordon House, Knight, a member of the Senate, blasted the commissioners, calling the findings of the report a shameful cover-up. Knight indicated that there was very little consideration for the public in putting together the Manatt report. According to Knight, these three commissioners were well paid and their duty was to protect the public, not to protect politicians. Commenting on a recommendation for the commissioners to be given the powers of a Supreme Court judge for the purpose of being able to cite for contempt, Knight said the Manatt commissioners ought not to have had the powers of a justice of the peace because of how they handled the proceedings. Criticizing the commissioners for their handling of the inquiry, Knight charged, "Several times we have had to assist them. They never recalled one question that was asked. They seem to have been at sea at times, and in terms of procedures, clearly out of their depth. The commissioners of the Manatt Commission of Enquiry have ruled that some of the lawyers who appeared before them were rude and out of order. In light of what they considered improper conduct by some attorneys, they want future commissioners to be empowered to cite persons for contempt. We think that the behavior of counsel would be very different if the commissioners were given the right to cite them for contempt, the report read. In that vein, Commissioner Chairman Emil George, Donald Shashmit, and Anthony Irons are calling for amendments to the Enquiries Act to give commissioners the right to state a case in the Supreme Court. They argued that it would be a useful procedure in matters such as the Manatt Commission of Enquiry, where the interpretation of statutory provisions was an issue. This has been another edition of the Parliament Report. Join us next week for another bulletin. Until then, I'm Edmund Campbell saying, walk good.